Hey everyone, welcome to week 14 of the Bible reading plan. I remember way back in the summer of 2000, I was 7 years old, and my parents loaded me and my brothers up into our Chevy Lumina, and we took a 2-week road trip halfway across the United States and back. At the time, me and my brothers were 7, 5, and 3 years old, so this was a bit of a bold move for my parents. Like, on the one hand, we had a bunch of great memories together that we'll never forget, like climbing to the top of the Gateway Arch in St. Louis, catching a Cubs game at Wrigley Field in Chicago, and paying a visit to SeaWorld in Cleveland, Ohio. Lots of great memories. But there were also trying moments along the way. As my parents crammed 3 young boys in the back of the car seat, there was lots of fighting and yelling of the phrase, "Hey, are we there yet?" I wonder sometimes in our faith journeys if it's easy for us to ask the question, are we there yet? Jesus, I want to follow you perfectly. I want that to happen right now. Lord, I want to be fully sanctified. I want that work to happen in my life immediately. Well, this week, as we're reading Luke chapter 8, verse 22 through Luke 11, I want you to make sure that you notice something important that's happening in the text. Up to this point, Luke has introduced us to Jesus, the Messiah, God's blessing, who's been sent here to earth. Jesus has gathered crowds around him. He's got a core group of believers. He's taught people what his message is about. And here in Luke 9:51, there's a shift. In that passage we read, as the day drew near for him to ascend to heaven, Jesus resolutely set out for Jerusalem. So what you're going to find on the next few weeks as you read is that Jesus is on a journey. He's headed to Jerusalem, where he's going to go head to head with the religious leaders and eventually be crucified. But he's not going on this journey alone. You see, what we find is that Jesus brings his disciples along with him. And if you read closely, you find that the disciples who Jesus brings along with him on the journey are not perfect people. The very next verse, after Jesus sets out for Jerusalem, him and his disciples enter a town that refuses Jesus. And his disciples' response is to say, "Lord, do you want us to call down fire from heaven to burn up this town?" Like, the disciples clearly don't get what Jesus is trying to do. They're learning as they go. And I think if we are really honest with ourselves, I think that's how each of us are. Whether you've been following Jesus for 5 days or for 5 decades, none of us have completely arrived yet. One day when Jesus makes all things new and we get our resurrection bodies, I think we'll stand before Jesus and we'll understand everything clearly. But the journey isn't over yet. And so my encouragement for each of you as you read through Luke this week is to pay attention to what Jesus has for you today. In spite of our flaws, in spite of our limitations, let's come to Luke and say, Jesus, I want to go on the journey with you. Show me what you have for me today in the text. Show me what you have for me today in my life. Be blessed as you read, and see you next week.